let's be honest, cluster bombs are nasty. For me, I was disappointed in my administration when I heard that they had approved the transfer of not just older munitions, but older munitions with an increased rate of failure.
Yeah.
Because the problem with the cluster bomb, it's a despicable weapon, right? It explodes at an altitude and it drops munitions down on other things. It's a indiscriminate killer, right? So it's a terrible, nasty weapon on its own. Very effective, terrible and nasty weapon. But the thing that's so horrible about them is when they don't detonate.
Yes.
When they don't detonate appropriately, you end up having these little grenades, little explosives that sit there months, weeks, years. And then they're discovered long after the conflict has ended. Children are still losing limbs in Laos and Vietnam when they come across these brightly colored old munitions and they pick them up or they play with them or they poke them with a stick and they explode.
Yeah.
Afghanistan is going through the same problem right now because we use them in the war in Afghanistan, right? Iraq still has the same issue. So we've left these little baby bombs all over the world, and that's why we don't use cluster munitions unless they have a very high success rate. I'm talking like 1% of them are allowed to fail.
Yeah.
Then we employ them actively. We're sending to Ukraine ones with a failure rate of more than 100% what we're willing to accept.
Right.
But you're right. Biden and his team have to make the decision. What can we do to continue to show support for Ukraine without actually taking away from our ability to defend the homeland?
Right.
And now they're at that place where the best thing to do is to send old, flawed munitions to a foreign conflict zone where even when they fail at a higher rate, which we know they will, it's not our problem.
Yeah.
Whether Ukraine wins or Russia wins, they have to clean up their own mess. They're the ones that are going to have to deal with future children discovering cluster munitions and having their limbs blown off. That's their problem, not our problem. But the current political narrative gets to advance when the United States says we're going to continue supporting Ukraine with more weapons.
Right. And even if we support them in the cleanup, it's a future problem, right? We don't need to worry about that right now. What we need to worry about right now is, have you ever read the book Cujo by Stephen King?
I remember that book.
Right? So the woman's trapped in a car with her toddler with a rabid dog outside.
Yeah.
What you need to worry about right now is that rabid dog outside, right? Like, you don't have to think about the future. You just need to worry about, how do I get this dog away from my car, So that I once I put myself in those shoes, I can understand, unfortunately, why the decision was made. I still don't agree with it.
What would you have done differently?
Well, without the intel, I'm not entirely certain what all of the options would have been. And it's difficult. And I think that this is difficult for a lot of people that, at some point you have to put faith in your leadership that they are taking all of the facts and making the best decision they can make with those facts. So I have to make the assumption that, Biden is taking all of the intel, all of the advice from his, military advisors, and he's making the best decision he can make.
Because you have faith in the current administration.
I don't have faith in the current administration.
Then why would you assume they're making the best decision they can make? I do believe. Believe that we have a history of American presidents who make decisions in the best interest of keeping economic and military dominance inside the United States. So I do believe that the Biden administration is doing a pretty fair job of making sure that nobody can economically or militarily dominate the United States right now. But I do think that the whole future problem thing is starting to become a clear and present problem.
Yeah.
Because we've kind of let ourselves slip a little too far. Now we're behind the curve in terms of conflict with near peers like China, right? And we've got strained relationships with long-term allies like Saudi Arabia. Even NATO and specific countries inside NATO are verbalizing and vocalizing that they don't like our current administration. They don't like our current direction, right? Germany has called for becoming the largest military in NATO and dropping the United States. France, President Macron from France has already gone to China
Yeah.
And had like the entire NATO alliance reprimand him for going to China and promising closer allegiance with China. So, the future problem is becoming the present problem when it comes to what does American dominance look like in the future. Right. If you like this short clip, make sure you click here to see the next clip or here to see the full podcast episode.